Big Buck Registry's Big Buck Podcast, episode number 48. The Horny Buck Seed Company with special guest Doug Kostreva. Big Buck Registry is a virtual museum of hunting stories. We preserve a piece of Americana by interviewing and recording hunters about their hunts and experiences from across the country. And who knows, maybe we'll learn a thing or two along the way that'll help us take our hunt to the next level.
This is Matt Drury with Drury Outdoors, and you're listening to my favorite podcast on iTunes, the Big Buck Registry, Big Buck Podcast.
Hey, this is Jay Scott. I don't know if you're into free stuff, but Doug Kostreva from the Horny Buck Seed Company has agreed to give away a Horny Buck Seed Company t-shirt and half an acre of seed to anybody that enters our contest. All you have to do is go to www.bigbuckregistry.com/hornybuckseed and fill out the form there and go and like Doug's page over at the Horny Buck Seed Company at Facebook, and you'll see a link right in the website link. Again, that's www.bigbuckregistry.com/hornybuckseed. Good luck. What's happening? This is Jay Scott from the Big Buck Registry, and I'm here with my good friend Dusty Phillips in Ohio. Dusty, what's happening today?
Yo, yo, yo. It's springtime.
Springtime. Showtime as well. We've got a great lineup today, Dusty.
Awesome, man. I'm pumped up, jacked up, fired up, revved up, ready to roll.
Okay, let's not drag this out at all. I just want to get right to the details because we're talking farm science today.
Oh man, I'm all in on this one. I love it.
This is you. This is your kind of niche. You like this kind of stuff.
You know, I'm like a big kid. I still like to play in the dirt. You know, what better way than a food plot?
Exactly. Well, we've got Doug from the Horny Buck Seed Company.
What a name.
Yes. Love the name. Really grabs my attention. And he's going to tell us all about his product, his seeds, how to do the right food plots.
Absolutely. It's going to be awesome. And, you know, we're going to learn a lot.
Absolutely. All right, let's get Doug on the phone. Doug, welcome to the Big Buck Registry's Big Buck Podcast.
Thank you. Thank you very much for having me.
It's a pleasure to have you on the show. We have not talked to a seed company yet. In particular, we're talking about the Horny Buck Seed Company. And that's your company, right, Doug?
Yes, it is. Yeah, that the name usually gets a little bit of an attention. I'll tell you that much right now. But
it's got a lot of attention.
Yeah, a lot of attention. Yeah, I actually got to credit my lovely wife Allison for coming up with the name. And when she came up with the name, the story a little bit behind it was when we were thinking of a name for our company, and I've been doing this now, food plots, for 16 years. I'm a third-generation farmer. I still live on the same farm my grandparents built in 1917. So I grew up growing stuff with my family. But when we decided to go out and start this up on our own, I actually started this up with the standpoint of I used to plant food plots, like I said, for years, and some of the major seed companies that were out there at the time, I was buying seed from them. And to find out that I was having some issues with germ issues, old seed basically, and confronted a couple of them. I said, I'm having some issues, and they basically said, Doug, there's nothing wrong with our seed. You're doing it wrong, and you can't tell a guy who's been planting since he was 8 years old that you're doing something wrong. I know how to grow crops, and when you go out to a food plot and you see you only got maybe 50% germination, you know right away that something's not right. So we started up the company on our own. I started buying seed from brokers but my main thing was if I was going to buy seed, it had to be quality, fresh seed. That is all I was going to use. And it took some work to find the right fit and the right blends. But as we started to blend it together, and I had an old cement mixer is what I started with, and we kind of grew since then, no pun intended. But the name ended up coming up. We said a group of guys were sitting around our kitchen table, and I told the guys that I was going to start doing this, and they're all like, "Well, it's about time. You've been doing this for so long, and what are you going to call the company?" And the irony is I live on a long, like I said, 160-acre beef farm, and our driveway is a half a mile long, and at the end of our driveway is a creek. And then the creek is called Whiskey Creek. So I was going to call it Whiskey Creek Seeds. And my wife blurted out, "You're nuts. You've got to come up with something better than that, something catchy." She says, "Why don't you call it Horny Buck?" And I'm like, "I'm not calling it Horny Buck. Are you kidding me?" And the story behind the Horny Buck is honestly due to my wife's nature of, when we go hunting, she'd always be, "Look at the horns on that buck," or, "Man, that is one big horny buck." And that's where this all kind of stemmed from. So the horny buck thing, I kind of went to bed thinking, "No, there's no way." And I got up in the morning and started doing some research on cartoon characters throughout the industry, and I couldn't find anything. And I'm kind of a nut job to begin with, as far as being a little bit funny and crazy. And my wife is too, if you haven't figured that out. And I went to my brother, who is a graphic artist. I told him, I said, "I'm starting up a seed company, and I want to do it on my own." He said, "Well, it's about time." I said, "Boy, have I heard that story before." And he said, "What are you going to call it?" I said, "Horny Buck Seed." And he looked at me and he goes, "You're serious, aren't you?" I said, "As a heart attack." And he said, "What do you need my help with?" I said, I need a logo."
Right.
And I told him what I wanted, and I'll be honest with you, after 40 prototypes, Horny the Buck was created. And we have tons of fun with it. If I had $1 if everybody took a picture of my truck while I'm going down the road, I'll tell you what, it would pay my fuel bill for sure, let me tell you. So, but, we have fun with it, but at first, when we started up the company, I think a lot of people didn't take us serious because they thought we were a spoof or a joke, and just because of the name. But I'll be honest with you, we hooked up with some great hunters out there who are passionate about growing plots just like I am. And the seed, it was clothing-based at first because nobody knew about us because they weren't growing our stuff. But now it is totally did a role reversal, and our seed by far outweighs our clothing. And in fact, our seed, we tripled in seed sales last year alone. So, am I blessed? God has truly blessed us, and we have fun doing what we do, but yet we're very, very adamant about what we grow, if that makes sense.
That's amazing. And that's the story behind Horny the Buck. That's awesome.
Yes, that's the first time I've ever actually really told it, honestly. So you guys are the first ones to hear it. I told it tongue-in-cheek to some people, but I get asked, different questions wherever I go, okay, where'd it come up? And I said, "Oh, it's a long story," which it kind of is. But
it's a good one. It's a good story.
It is, and it's true. I ain't gonna tell you, I'm like the rest of half of America. I was a regional manager for a company based out here in Wisconsin, and my wife worked for me. And the irony of it is the economy went in the dumps, and to make a short story long, our company folded that I worked for. So my wife and we lost our jobs basically on the same day. And
wow.
Like I said, third generation on a farm, and at the time I had 2 young children, and I just didn't want to leave. I had a good farm life growing up, and my wife didn't want to leave either. So we ended up, starting up a company on our own, and it's been a struggle. I ain't gonna lie to you. Starting up a business is very hard work, but I'm an old farmer by trade, so it ain't like I'm not used to not working, dark to dark. So what do you do? It is what it is.
Right.
So, but like I said, it's. We have been so blessed by so many great people out there. And I've met tons of wonderful people in this industry, and I always feel like I'm the lucky one. I'm the lucky one, even though I struggle, and it's a struggle. Trust me. The competition's tough, and there's some great seed companies out there. There's so many of them that it's actually flooded. But I met some of my best people that I have right now that are actually growing our stuff. Like basically sitting there telling them, "You try it, you will come back. I guarantee it." And 90% of them that I know for a fact that I have actually did that to are my best actually supporters today by far, and we became friends. I'm just meeting at a show, and they didn't want nothing to do with me because they were so into what they were growing. And I'm talking people who are, I'm talking food plot connoisseurs. So I am, they said, "How come your stuff germs so good?" And I'm like, It's all about the freshness, brother. It's what it's all about. It's all about quality seed. And I could shortcut this seed company in a heartbeat by 30% within a phone call, and I won't do it. I just refuse to do it. I just don't want to cut corners, because I feel like the minute you start cheapening up something, you're taking away from the public. And I've been beat down, and I refuse to do that to people that actually put faith in what we do, if that makes sense.
Right. Doug, how long has the Horny Buck Seed Company been around?
Actually, we started 4 years ago. This is actually going to be our 4th year, but in all fairness, it's really our 3rd year, due to the fact of the matter is it took us a whole year to trademark everything.
Right.
So, technically, under the Horny Buck Seed name, this will be our 4th year, but as far as seed sales, it's really going to be really only our 3rd year. But I've been doing this for planting food plots for 16 years. I remember when I was, about 18 years old, my very first food plot was a cornfield. I ain't gonna kid you. Then I grew pumpkins. Then I tried carrots. I tried everything. And back then in the 80s, soybeans weren't even non-existent pretty much in Wisconsin. They really weren't. So I started growing gardening beans, and Mother Nature was that expensive. But I started to do protein tests as I got older with my beef cattle, and I started testing my products that I started producing for the deer. And I found out the more protein you can give them, the better their antler growth. And this all ties into with deer farms. I belong to the Whitetails of Wisconsin, which is the Deer Farm Association here in Wisconsin. I work with some of the deer farmers hand in hand, and I learned so much from what they do. They have a passion for what they do. And with that being said, I can learn what they're eating, what they're getting out of it, what are they taking in, what are they consuming, and at what time are they consuming it. From the minerals to, the different times of the year to take the carbs and the sugars. There's such a science to it, and people just think, food plots, anybody can grow a food plot. Well, God bless you. If anybody can do it, then go ahead and try. But there's a lot of ignorance that goes with it too. There's a lot of people that think that they know something, and I'm not saying I know everything, but I've been around long enough to know how this works, so to speak, if that makes sense.
Gotcha. Now, so you're in Wisconsin, and in order to get seed, you must plant first, right? Or how do you get the seeds into the bag? How do you get the seeds to begin with?
Well, what I ended up doing is I don't grow any of my seed.
Okay.
Here's the deal. I buy all my seed, but I buy it bulk rate, and then I buy it in lots. And I'll be honest with you, I would say 98% of all the seed companies do the same thing I do.
Okay.
The deal with the seed that we get is one thing about seed. Everybody is good at what they do. Okay. A seed company that produces seeds to grow for the average consumer to grow, they get it basically from different farms where the climate, the temperature, the moisture, the germination, the amount of bees. There's so many things that play into getting a good germination of a seed. Now, mind you, I can't do that here in Wisconsin and get a good germ seed. I can grow seed like crazy. How is it going to produce? I don't know. It's a gamble. Right. I would rather take it from somebody, I know what strains of seed that I'm getting. I know what quality of seed I'm getting because it's got to pass their inspection before I buy it. So the moral of the story is 95, 98% of all the seed companies out there, they don't grow their own stuff. They get it from Oregon. They get it from Texas. They get it from Canada. They get it from, Idaho. They get it from maybe Dakotas. There's all these different states in the nation here that grow seed. It's the thing of it is it's back down to a lot of it's the same strains. In fact, a lot of our corn seed that we buy, like the field corn seed that the average farmer is growing, it's not grown even here in the United States. It's grown in South America. People don't know that, but it's true. I know how it works. Not a lot of it, but a lot of it is.
Okay.
And it all has to do with germ and it all comes back down to the vigor of the plant. If you got a good quality seed, you put it in the ground. The thing I'm trying to get, to relay to people is you put so much effort into doing a plot correctly, you're better. You got so many things going against you. You got weather, you got weeds, you got, ground types, you got, deer eating it. You got everything going against you. your best bet to get something going for you is to start out with the best quality seed, start out with the best quality ground prep, do the best weed killing you can, plant it at the right time, and you still have things against you. So, you've got to try to work with what you can to actually, it's basically a process of elimination to be successful, to grow. To me, it's all about one thing, growing the groceries. The more you can grow for them, the better your deer are going to be, because your deer only get bigger by the amount of protein they take in and how they make it through the winter.
Gotcha. Okay.
Genes are part of it, but it's them two things that really run it.
So you bring the seeds in from somewhere else, and then you decide what's going to go in your blends and what's going to be best for the food plots and all that kind of stuff. That's what
right.
Is that about right?
Yes.
What kind of seed should I expect to get in one of your better blends?
Well, see, our blends are all formulated around two things: variety and protein. On a majority of our seed blends, that is what I'm trying to relay.
Okay.
Like our clover blend, it's a multiple amount of clovers in it. But I want variety. Deer like variety. The more variety you can give them, the more they'll come back to the same plot. I have guys that are like, well, I always want to plant beans. Well, go ahead. That's fine. But you know what? When a deer is sick of beans, they're going to go eat something else. So I learned this, honestly, from the deer farms. I go to the deer farms and I started planting blends. I plant chicory and I plant that separate. I plant alfalfa separate. I plant this clover separate. I plant that clover separate. And what I would do is I would protein test some clovers, but I would also let the deer go into that pen to see what they went for. What did they eat? And I'll be honest with you, the more I learned, when the deer would come into the pen, some days they would only eat a certain thing. The next day they would eat something totally different. And you'd be like, really? So what I started to think of is, man, the more blends I can give them with the higher protein, that they can intake, A, they don't eat as much. B, it's healthier for them. So you sit there and you take those two things, then you got healthy does, healthy fawns, healthy bucks, bigger racks. Anything you can do to take stress off a deer, the better off you are. And I mean, right from seed to mineral, deer are lazy. People think, oh, deer like to travel. They have nothing better. They want to go, they want to go 4 miles to check out a movie. They're not like us. Deer are lazy. You can keep deer on a 20-acre area if you give them food, water, shelter. That's all they don't want them. They won't leave if you can give them that 3 things, they will stay there all year. But if they got to start traveling for food sources or for water sources or for mineral sources, then you know what? Now you got deer moving to the neighbors, and then you know how that is. And then here comes a vicious circle. Well, I got a buck on my land, and I want to kill it. No, I want that buck back on my land. Hey, I religiously shoot nice deer on my farm, and my neighbors around me shoot everything. So, you know what? Am I doing something right? I think so.
Gotcha.
I got deer that they stay here. I know them by name. They don't leave, but they got water, mineral, food, and a bedding area.
Gotcha.
So I mean, that's kind of how that works.
I can feel Dusty stewing over there because he loves talking food plots. And
yeah.
Okay.
I'm going to step in here. When it comes down to Horny Buck Seed Company, do you have a soil program that you offer along with your seed, or is just the seed's the only thing that you do?
Do you have I'm sorry, I missed the first part of that question. I'm sorry.
Do you have a soil program along with your seeds that you send out, or you just go strictly on seed?
No, here's what I do. If a guy is really, the rule of thumb when I work with people, when I'm at a show and I'm talking with people, the first thing I will do them is give them a soil test kit. And I'll tell them right out, did you test your soil? No. Here you go. Step number 1. We cannot grow anything unless we know where your soil pH is at. And that is the very first number 1 thing. Most of the people that email me, I send them out a packet. I actually got sponsored by a company called Egg Source. They are absolutely phenomenal. For $18, you send them soil test kit in, and they will tell you exactly what you need to grow our stuff. It works absolutely phenomenal. But I mean, that's a very good question because, there's 2 things that I hear at every show that I've ever go to. And I mean, and I'm now from Wisconsin, and I've been down to Ohio, I've been to Iowa, I've been to all these, they're almost all at the same thing. A, do you got anything that grows in sand? And B, do you got any throw and grow? And that's the 2 things that I get the most out of. And the first one is I'm like, yes, I do, but it depends on when you plant it. And B, everything grows in throw and grow. If you get anything out of it. That's the throw and grow things are for the guys that it's called poke and hope. I'm going to throw it down, and in a perfect world, if you get enough rain and everything works great, you might get something. But the majority of the things that are in throw and grow, rule of thumb, are grasses. Annual ryegrass is the number one thing that's in the throw and grow. Well, how many deer, if you're a deer enthusiast and you go sit out in the field and you watch deer, how many deer do you ever see eat grass? Very, very few. They get enough roughage out of the alfalfa they eat. They get enough roughage out of the clovers they eat. They don't need that grass for roughage. They get enough of that. So, but getting back to your question, you do need to get your soil tested. And no matter if you do it to your local co-op, it doesn't matter. I don't care how you do it, but find out where your pH is. I mean, you want that 6.3, 6.5. That's what you're shooting for, and it all goes back down to the amount of fertilization in that plant, in that ground, that's gonna get that plant, that seed, a good growth and a good base to get it growing.
Right, absolutely, for sure. When you get into, do you still I'm just going to dig a little deeper into what you got going there. Obviously, you're saying that variety in your food plot keeps your herd in your area. Do you sell like a strictly soybean or a strictly a field corn? Do you sell just particular bags like that, or is it mostly a variety that the Horny Buck Seed Company sells?
Here's what I do. I don't sell field corn. I don't sell seed corn. Do I plant seed corn? Absolutely, I do. I do for the deer in a plot. Rule of thumb, and I mean, I get it to, ship it, but I don't sell it, just due to the fact of the matter of Monsanto and the legal stuff that has to go on with that. And right. I mean, I ain't gonna lie to you. Roundup Ready corn is still for the average deer farmer, or the guy that wants to plant food plots, is the way to go, just because Roundup is still by far the easiest way to do weed control. Right. I do put field corn in. I also put soybeans in, but I have a blend that it's called Premium Pods. We came out with it last year. The only downfall to it is not Roundup Ready. Some of the beans in there are Roundup Ready, but not all of them are, so you obviously can't sell it as Roundup Ready. But it's got a soybean, it's got a snap bean, which is basically a garden bean, and it's got an Austrian winter pea. So I call it Premium Pods. I tested it last year. It tested over 28% protein. So it's called Bring in the Protein to the Deer. It works very good. If you want to sit there and you want antler growth, I usually plant it in the springtime, and my deer feed on that basically all summer. I let them free range it. I let them mow it right down, and then come first week of August, I rototill it, and then I plant my brassicas for the fall to grow that. So that's how I usually rotate. I don't grow soybeans on my farm here. I grow alfalfa and field corn for my cattle. I don't grow soybeans, but I do grow beans just for the deer.
Right. Awesome. Let's run through a step-by-step for somebody that's interested. Say that we got somebody that's listening and they want to do a food plot with Horny Buck Seeds. Give us the rundown. Obviously, first thing is do a soil test. That's number one priority to get anything to grow, and I'm a supporter of that 100%. What if you have limited tillage equipment? Is there a seed that you offer that is for light tillage versus somebody that's got heavy equipment, field cultivator, plows, that can actually get in and make a real solid food plot? Do you have a variety? Just kind of give us a little rundown of somebody that the average hunter with maybe a four-wheeler with a pull drag or some kind of harrow or a garden tiller that they go in and do a half-acre plot with. Tell us something that's pretty simple to put out.
Okay, here's what I usually do. If I got a hunter, like you're saying, he's got a four-wheeler and he's got a lawn roller. Most people have that. Some people have light drag. Some people have light implements. But let's just say hypothetically that's all they have is a lawn roller. Let's just start with that. It's going to all come down to one thing: weed control. Here's one thing that you can do. I got our big racks, our Lucko Buck, and our Sweet Frost. Those 3 blends right there, you can throw and grow them, basically. But you got to do it at the right time of the year. Now, when I say right time of the year, here's what I'll do. You know, like now being in Wisconsin, our growing season's horrible. We usually get a good killing frost the second week of September, okay? So our window is not very big, but I need at least a good 40 to 60 days of good growing weather. So I usually start, rule of thumb, 3rd week of July, and what I'll do is I'll go like about the 15th of July and I'll spray with Roundup, okay? I will leave that like a day or 2, even when it's still green yet. I will go and I will broadcast the seed. You know, obviously you got to overseed it a little bit just because your ground to seed contact is not going to be that great just because you don't have your ground loose, okay? But then while that grasses and everything are in there, they are killed because when you spray with Roundup, it is dead within 3 hours. But I also spray, when I do the spraying, I spray the fertilizer with it. We have 2 different fertilizers. We got Ace and Ace Plus. Ace Plus is a higher nitrogen base. Ace is just a straight 1-1-1. But what's nice about them is they're full of microorganisms and bacteria. But what happens with that is when I put the chemical or the spray, you know, the Roundup with that, the minute that hits them leaves, that fertilizer brings the leaves to life and it starts sucking the nutrients in along with the poison. So it dies just that much faster. So what I will do is I'll spray my fertilizer along with the weed kill. Then I will broadcast the seed, like I said, the next day, or you can do it in the afternoon if you can. But it doesn't matter. But you only really need it, 3 hours. But I sometimes will rototill. Now this is me rototilling. I'll rototill 5 hours after, and I'll plant, and I'm done. But no matter how you do it, now getting back to the regular layman guy, if he can just sit there and spray it and kill it, and then broadcast seed, roll it and pack it in with that wet grass or that grass over the top of it as it's dying, that's going to act as a compost. And it's going to also help that seed to hold moisture to get it growing. So you will have growth out of it. I had some plots that turned out phenomenal. That sweet frost that I have, that blend, it's an all brassica blend. It's turnips and a bunch of different rates in it. That stuff, I can grow that on my driveway with moisture. That stuff grows. I mean, I get customers that come to the warehouse here and they're like, oh my gosh, your backyard here looks better than my food plots at home. And I'm like, that's just yard sweepings. I'm sorry, brother. It grows anywhere. But I mean, I have hunters that take 4-wheelers and do Cheerios, do donuts. That's how they plant it. They broadcast and they go do donuts, It doesn't take much to get ground seed. It's just kind of like frost seeding, like you do that in the springtime. But you got to have the moisture there. If you don't have the moisture, nothing's going to grow. I don't care how you do it. Even throw and grow of any type. If you don't have the moisture, it's just not going to grow. So, but those 3 blends will grow pretty much anywhere as long as you can get it packed even flat onto the ground and you get some rain on it, it will grow.
Right. What kind of germination percentage should people expect out of the Horny Buck seeds?
Well, in all my testing, it's right around 98%. Here's a funny story, and I can relate it to you because it actually baffled me, and it actually shocked me at first. I get a call about a month ago from an independent company here out of Wisconsin, who did a testing on food plot seed companies throughout the Midwest, and they called me up and they said, Doug, we got some interesting statistics for you. We would like to talk with you. They left me a voicemail, actually. So I called them back and I said, hey, I got your message. How can I help you? He said, well, we did an independent testing on some seeds throughout seed companies throughout the Midwest. And, out of 14 seed companies, your germ rate and growth rate was number 1. And I said, not to be jokingly, I said, all right, what do you want from me? Because I'm thinking there's got to be a catch,
Right.
And he said, well, we really don't want nothing from you. He says, but the company that we're doing the testing for has got some questions. And they said, how can a small company like you can you get your germination rate better than all of these big companies? And I said, well, okay. I said, can I ask you one question? And they said, yeah. I said, where did you get, where is this company that you're testing this for? Because I'm not going to give you out much more than unless I know where this is coming from. And they told me it's a company overseas that is basically making a piece of equipment for food plotters here in the United States. and they want us to do an independence test because they're looking for a seed company that germs and growth rate looks good, so it makes their equipment look good. So then I'm like, oh, okay, so now you got my attention. And I said, well, here's the deal. I said, I'm very picky on the seeds that I put in our blends. It's got to be 100% fresh. It's got to be 100% quality. And I says, otherwise, I don't want it. I said, I could buy 2-year-off seed, and I said, I could save 30%, and I refuse to do it. That's just my preference. And I don't add it in to cheapen it up. And the main, if there's such a thing as a complaint last year that I had, was our stuff came in too thick. And both of the fellows that called me, one of the guys actually, by the time I got him calmed down on the phone, I says, I got to ask you a question. He said, my stuff came in too thick. It's all stunted. It's not going to make it. And I'm so upset. And I said, can I ask you a question? I said, you got the container in front of you? He goes, yeah. I says, how big was your plot you planted? He says, well, it was about a half an acre. And I says, what does it say on the container? He said, it plants 8 to 10 pounds to the acre. And I said, how much seed do you have left? He said, none. I put it all in. Well, none of it never, no company that germs that good. I says, well, it just did for you, didn't it, buddy? He said, you mean I could have planted twice as much with this? I'm like, you got to go what it says on the container. If it says 8 pounds to the acre, it's planting an acre, not a half an acre. You do not have to overseed this. And then he goes, he apologized up and down to me. And the same thing with the other fellow did the same thing. He called me back and he goes, well, man, idiot. And I'm like, hey, no harm, no foul. I says, it happens. But I says, our germ rate is very, very good. Because like I said, it goes back down to you have so many things working against you. And you've got to give the best effort that you can possibly do to at least get something for them to eat, period.
Yeah, absolutely. Great story that over too much seed in one area, as far as, you're sending out a bag or a package or toter of seed that plants an acre, that's a great point. If you got an acre package and you throw it on a half acre and you got good quality seed, it all comes up like it's supposed to, germinates 98%, as you're saying. That's a strong food plot for failure.
Oh, it is, and like I said, I'm kind of humbled sometimes with people I get so many people that call to thank me, and I'm telling you that is what drives me, because, I get people that send me pictures. I wish I could post them on Facebook just because they just don't want their neighbors to know. It's unbelievable, but they're like, man, I shot this off of your food plot tonight, man. Thank you so much. It's the first time I ever put in a food plot, and I went to one of your seminars, and you taught me how to do it, and, man, I thank you so much. And, you know what? It's just like me shooting that deer. That's just the way I felt. I felt so honored. And, I genuinely love to help people. I really do. I don't, when people come up to me and they're like, hey, Doug, you got a minute? You can talk to me about food plots? Oh, man, I'm all over that. I know my wife sometimes gets a little upset because she's like, man, you can talk food plots forever. And I'm like, it's my passion. This is what I do. I love this. I genuinely love helping people. That is what I do. So, if I can help somebody to be successful. The problem is when I first started out doing this, it really was just in the early stages. It didn't exist. But as a farming background, I knew how to grow stuff, and I knew what worked, and I knew what deer were eating. So I learned a lot. I learned a lot via the hard way, lack of a better word, but that's how it's trial and error. That's how you learn how to get good things together,
Right.
Yeah, for sure. Absolutely.
Doug, has this product or all of your products been tested across the country in each state?
For the most part, yes. The only issue that no matter what we do, and I'm learning this too, and I ain't gonna lie to you, when you get down in the southern states, it's really a struggle, just due to the fact of the matter is of the brutal heat and the amount of heat and the lack of rain you get down there. Our stuff grows very good and I've had different people grow it from, Oklahoma all the way across to Carolina. I've had a lot of success. In the places where it didn't obviously do that good, they said it wasn't nothing to do with the seed. They said even their alfalfa fields burnt out. So, there's certain things you just, I don't care what you do, it gets back down to Mother Nature. Our seed is great. Is it going to work there? I learned, like, you get down south into Florida, into Georgia, a lot of oats. They grow a lot of oats because you know what? It's a quick turnaround. It gets green and it's done. But it's something for them to eat. But in the Midwest region, as far as up into Canada, from Kansas. We got guys growing it out in Kansas, right on down to actually into Kentucky, and I got Tennessee. And the people that have grown it have been very happy. I've had several people just, shoot me emails and send me pictures of how stuff came. So it does, does it come good? Yes, but you got to sit there and it all comes down to Mother Nature. I mean, like I said, it's back to no matter where you plant a plot, there's only so much you can do. I mean, last year, Chris Brackett, I've been helping Chris for a couple of years now, and Chris, he's been using our products. In fact, I put a blend together for him, and Chris and I, last year, Illinois had drought haven. It was horrible. And I told Chris, he come back from hunting in Canada. He goes, Doug, man, my plot's so terrible. He said, we haven't had rain in 40 days. And I said, Chris, you're going to have to water. He goes, you know how much work that is? I said, hey, I'm just being honest. If God isn't giving it to you, you have to take control and pump. I said, you got ponds there. I said, you're going to have to figure it out. Well, he did, and he always does everything to the extreme. So he went and he did it perfectly. He got a tanker and he got a pump and he did everything. And all of a sudden, it was like, he said, Doug, I have never in my life seen stuff grow like this ever. He said, I have never had anything just take off like it is. He said, it is just, and I think that's what sold him on our seed. He said, as stressed out as them plants were, they all came back tenfold for him. He could not believe how big the radishes were. He couldn't believe how big the beets were, and that's just one of the stories, it's just, but sometimes, if Mother Nature ain't helping you, you got to help it along sometimes if you really want to be successful too.
Gotcha. What are some of the different blends that we can expect to find at your store?
Well, our number one seller is Big Racks, just because we call that the kitchen sink. It's got basically everything in it. If you're really, from clover, alfalfa to chicory to brassicas, it's got everything in it. The clover blend, if you're really into clovers, I got a multiple amount of clovers and different clovers in there. What I like about the clover blend is it's going to germinate, and when it germinates, it's going to all get grown, but it's going to all mature at a different time. So they're always going to have fresh, young, tender plants to eat. And sometimes if it gets flowered out, you're going to have to mow it. But if you got the deer mowing it, then you don't have to.
Gotcha.
That's our Sweet Frost blend is a phenomenal blend. That's basically an all brassica blend. It's your biggest bang for the buck. It's a very cheap seed, but yet it grows tonnage. Dead Zone was our hot seed last year, and I could see at the shows it's going to be even hotter this year. That is basically a sugar beet and radish blend. It's got some kale in it. It is a tonnage maker. I grew it on 1 acre here last year. I took my flail chopper out there in a chopper box, and I flail chopped it because I wanted to see what I had for green value, and I averaged 6.7 tons to the acre just off of that, and that wasn't including the bulbs, obviously, and the radishes that were in the ground. So I was very, very pleased with that blend, and a lot of the customers that we had, they said this year that's all they're growing. That is a great blend. Our Checkmate blend is a very good blend. It's a little bit of more of a later blend. It's got the oats and the peas in it, and it's also got some rye and some turnips in it. You want to plant maybe like about a month and either 30 to like 50 days before you're going to get a frost. More like 30 to 40 days if you can. That's also an excellent blend.
Okay.
We also have the premium pods, which I talked about earlier. That's another very good protein. We have the Booyah blend, which is Chris Brackett's blend that we threw together for him. It's a very, very drought tolerant type of a blended seed. And it's a protein maker. That is, he wanted something that was going to push proteins. And that one really is going to do very, very well. And as far as if you're looking for something as a buffer zone, and also a bedding area, we have Safe Zone, which basically can grow anywhere from 6 to 14 feet tall. I got a lot of guys planted on their ins and outs of their deer stand along their food plot, so the deer don't bust them when they're leaving, and the deer don't bust them on their way in. I have, and it also works as a very, very good bedding area. So, those are some of the main ones that, we also have the Feathered Friends, which are basically just for all different bird life. Out there from mourning doves to quail to pheasants to turkeys. Mm-hmm. And then we have our horny duck, which I threw together a blend. I got some real diehard duck hunters, and they wanted something that they could grow along the Mississippi and around their ponds on the flyway. And when in the fall time, when they're coming back down, migrating down, or even the locals, they have a food source that they can eat some of the millets and the sunflower seeds and different things that are there for them, and in the grain sorghum and so forth.
Gotcha. Okay, so if I wanted to buy the Booyah blend, the crisp Brackett blend, does it also come with a Booyah beard trimmer?
Chris can take care of that for you, brother. I know he's got a bunch of them. It's funny, though. I got a few of them here, too, though. It's like, yeah, isn't that great? We were laughing about that. Andis sent me some. Actually, Andis, who owns the Andis company, he grows our stuff. So he sent me some trimmers, and we giggle about it. It's kind of funny.
That's funny.
That's actually a good one, though.
Yeah. I couldn't help but notice that you guys might actually use the same trimmer. So could be a case.
No,
I wasn't sure.
It's funny. Hey, there's one thing I didn't touch on is mineral. I don't know, a lot of states it's not legal, but a lot of states it is. And just for the people out there that are listening, a little FYI, mineral grows bone. And I know I don't think we touched on it at all, but right now, mineral has been just flying off the shelf this time of year, especially after this hard winter.
Yep.
Deer are just pounding it to the bejesus, and they need it. We don't have a lot of salt in our mineral. We don't need it, but I did a lot of studies on our mineral through the deer farms, and and even in the wild, we're averaging between 20 to 40 inches a deer on a mature 4.5-year-old from shed to shed, from year to year. So, mineral is key. People don't realize it, that they think, oh, mineral's mineral. I'm going to throw some salt blocks out there. I'm going to throw this out there. Listen, it's a science, and there's a lot of great mineral companies out there, but I put so much effort and energy into this with the deer farmers and learning, honestly, some of their trade secrets, what they use and how they do it. If there's anything you want, if there's anything that you can do, that, and even if you don't have a food plot and you got farmers around you that are growing beans and corn and alfalfa, and you don't need a food plot, and that's, God bless you, I totally get it, but man, you better have a mineral station out there for them, because they will use it. If they need it, they're using it, and 90% of the time, they're needing it.
Gotcha. Let me go down. You've talked a lot about your products and the whole idea of food plots. Let me break it down to my individual food plot that I need your help with. Just kind of bring it home. I have a backyard I have about 1.25 acres. And when I first moved here, there were deer in my yard constantly, and they've never left. I've tried to do gardens. I gave up. So I've decided that it should really just become the food plot area for deer, because everything I grow out there, it just gets annihilated. But the deer come and mow it down, so I might as well just feed them and stop trying to grow food for myself. Okay. That being said, it's a raised bed with rocks. It's not very big. It's probably 30 by 30 at the most. What should I be putting in there, being in New Hampshire?
Okay. Well, here's a little FYI. If you have, now can I ask you a question? Have you tried any deer repellents?
Not really. No.
Okay. Well, if you're looking for groceries, as far as tonnage, your annual, the dead zone is going to be great. Your perennials, the bigger X or the Lucko Buck's going to be great. If it's in a raised bed, with like you're saying, I would think the dead zone's going to get you the biggest plant. It's going to get you the tallest plant. It's going to get you the most forage. But we do have a product called Outbound. I sell probably more of that sometimes than anything. Okay. I have a lot of people using it. I have a lot of gardeners using it. I have a lot of homeowners using it. It's all organic. You spray it on your plants, and the deer won't eat it for 30 to 60 days. It works. I know that's an oxymoron, because you're like, wait a minute, I want to grow something for the deer, but you don't want them to eat it. And I'm like, well, I know that sounds stupid, but it's true. You want them to eat it, but you got to let them plants get some growth on them before they mow it off. So I mean, if you want tonnage, the dead zone you can't go wrong with as far as tonnage wise.
Okay.
And that's an annual. Your perennials, the sky's the limit there. You can go with the Big Rex or the Dead Zone or the Booyah blend. Either one of them, they're going to be absolutely fine, because them three are perennial. They'll come right back. But, the Sweet Frost, if you want something and you want tonnage, the Sweet Frost or the Dead Zone are going to be the ones that are going to do it. Now, if you are worried about the deer eating it too fast, then all you have to do is when it gets about what I call soda can height, and hopefully you can keep them off of it till then I would go in the evening and you just spray it down with the outbound in the evening. I don't put it on the direct sun because it's got some cedar oil in it. It's got garlic in it, and that actually basically kind of keeps it kind of burns the leaves in direct sunlight.
Yep.
But they won't, rule of thumb, come touch it for 30 to 60 days. If you don't get rain, it's around 40 to 50 days, sometimes 60. But it depends on the amount of deer. If you got 50 deer and they're hungry, they're eating anything. I don't care what you put on it. They're eating it.
Right.
So
it's usually a pack of like 10 to 15 deer that'll be just around constantly.
And they'll probably leave that alone. Will leave that alone.
Okay.
I've had guys that did studies with it last year. They tried it, and one of the guys that tried it last year on his beans, he ended up buying, I think he bought 2 5-gallon buckets here about a week ago. He said he had such a good luck with it. And what he liked about it is he has Roundup Ready beans. So he just put it in with his glyphosate, and he can kill 2 birds with 1 stone. So, it works really good as a repellent. But if you're looking for tonnage, you ain't going to beat that Dead Zone for tonnage, because if it's got good fertile ground and you get enough days on it for growth, it'll get waist high.
Gotcha. Okay. That we'll have to talk about that in the near future here. Now, if you want to buy something from you, how do you go about it?
It's hornybuckseed.com. You can go on there and click on, I believe you go into store or shop. I'm not even quite for sure how it works, but,
okay.
Cause I haven't bought anything on my own website.
Right. Well, yeah, the plumber doesn't fix his own sink, so I wouldn't imagine. Right?
Yeah. I know. Yeah, that's a good analogy. But I think it's you shop here or shop online, or else you go to products and it'll tell you how to click on them. But all our stuff is on there, and actually we're adding to it too. I'm going to be adding some new things here coming up, but I'm just waiting for them to come in before I can add them. And our clothing line's on there. I ain't gonna lie to you, our clothing still sells pretty good. I get people that don't even hunt that buy our stuff.
Gotcha.
So it's great. It's fun. We have fun with it, and I'm not complaining. I every time I look at my wife, I always kind of tell her, "Thank you."
Gotcha.
And so it works out pretty well.
Well, cool. Well, you've made it through 4 years, so you've gone past that standard 2-year mark that most businesses will either fold or keep going. So, congratulations on that. That's excellent.
I appreciate that. Thank you.
How much should somebody expect to pay for like a 5-pound bag of seed?
Rule of thumb, it's right around $35.
Okay.
Plus shipping. I mean, you can do a half an acre. Rule of thumb, if you're going to sit there and I'm talking the whole gambit. I'm talking the food plot. I mean, the testing of the food plot, the soil, the fertilizer, and the seed. It's still going to be under $100. Rule of thumb. With shipping. So, I mean, I know a lot of guys like in Wisconsin are big baiters. I'm obviously not.
Right.
Because I found out that, through my studies, that baiting can really screw up your hunting. I know a lot of people that they disagree with me, but baiting only makes an animal nocturnal. So deer are like beef cattle. They like to graze every 4 to 6 hours if they can. They like to eat every 4 to 6. When you put out 500 pounds of corn, they're eating about every 12 hours, or sometimes even, twice in the dark, and you don't see them again. So, I mean, baiting does help in some places because you have no choice, but anytime you can put a food plot in and you're not in there, you're not bringing scent into there, you're not there baiting every day, they don't time you, you're back on to bringing them to your level again, if that makes sense.
Yeah, I totally agree with that, actually. Yeah, completely agree with that. Dusty, any final questions for Doug?
What say you're putting out bag of your seed, what's a general fertilizer that you would standardly tell somebody to throw on?
Well, a rule of thumb, if there's anything that, if you're just going to go buy granular, I usually tell people, rule of thumb, either a triple 13, triple 19, and I'd put anywhere from, 80 to 150 pounds to the acre. It depends on, what you're growing and how you're doing it. If it's more of like your brassicas are going to lead a little bit more nitrogen. If it's going to be your alfalfas and clover, it's going to be more potash and phosphorus. So, to the average person that can go to a store and pick up fertilizer, that's usually what, like a feed mill, whatever, that's usually what they carry standard. Triple 10, triple 13, triple 19, that's usually what they have on stock. And that's what I usually put down. I'll be honest with you, when I first started out, that's what I did. I did it, but I got totally away from the granular just from what I've learned through my experiences, what granular does to the soil. So for me, that's why I switched over to the liquid, and it was a hard sell with me on the liquid. It really was, because this company that I've been working with now for 3 years, I thought they were, dog and pony show. I thought, you guys are blowing sunshine. This is absolute garbage. Liquid, it's garbage. It's watered down something. And, but as I learned last year, I put a couple gallons on my corn just to try it with no fertilizer with the planter, and that's all I did, with top dressed with that. And I ended up with 120 bushel of corn for my deer. And I'll be honest with you, that was the best field I had, was for my deer last year, and that was corn on corn. So it sold me right there. I'll tell you that much.
Yeah, it seems like a natural ability of the plants to pull the nutrition out of the ground with like a liquid fertilizer. It goes into the soil and it's able to disperse as a natural process.
Exactly. It's all about bacteria. Our soil has so many nutrients in it that are basically locked up. That's why we end up having to put lime. What does lime do? It neutralizes the soil to release so it can grow your crops. And I learned it too. I used to top dress 200, and I'm talking my normal corn when I grow corn for my cattle. I would top dress with 200 pounds of urea. That's what I did. And probably, I don't know how many farmers do that. But I learned one thing from an old farmer. He said, "You ever go in your cornfield and look for worms?" And I'm like, "Well, why would I do that?" He said, "Go, because," he said, "you ain't going to find any." And I said, "Why won't I find any?" He said, "Because all that urea you put in there, all that salt, it drives them. It almost kills them." And I'm like, "Really?" He said, "Now you go in your alfalfa field and you go dig that up where you don't put your urea down and see how many worms you find." And you know what? I did that. And I was like, I was shocked, because he was spot on. And then with this liquid, it started to make sense to me. I'm like, oh, duh. So, I've learned some things from being ignorant, basically on to-dos and not-to-dos. So, I'm not saying that everything I do works great, but I'll tell you right now, I can put you up with a lot of people that'll sit there and say, "Man, Doug, you got that to a science." And I'm like, I got it to a science, but I still need Mother Nature to help me. So it doesn't matter. You know what I mean?
Right, absolutely.
Right. Makes sense. Makes a lot of sense. Doug, how can people reach you directly or indirectly if they want to actually ask you some more questions?
I tell people email's open all the time, and I ain't going to lie to you, my phone is open all the time.
Okay.
If they need to email me, it's just Doug@HornyBuckSeed.com. Or Brian at HornyBuckSeed.com. Brian's one of our lean sales guys. He's been with me from the get-go here, and he knows our products up and down too. But if you go online and you just, basically go info and email us, rule of thumb, 90% of the time, I'm the one that's getting the emails. So, I genuinely tell people, I genuinely want to help you. I really do, because the problem, and this gets back down to the way the world is going today, customer service today stinks. I ain't going to lie to you. It stinks. I hate calling up any place that I need customer service and I am talking to somebody who does not speak English. It really gets frustrating. And I'm not degrading the people, but I'm like, they can't help me and I can't understand them and they can't help me. And I refuse to be that way. I want to genuinely help people. But then again, I had a guy call me up one time and he spoke Spanish and I couldn't speak Spanish. And I said, can you email? Like he could broken English a little bit, email. I said, can you email me? And he looked at, I don't speak Spanish. I'm so sorry. And believe it or not, he could, let's say a translator or whatever, he emailed me and it came across in English. And I helped him and he bought seed and he was happy. So it worked out perfect, So sometimes you run into them culture barriers, but, I'm out to help anybody. I don't care who you are. I genuinely do. And I mean, there's some people, like they always say, there's no way you can help them, and you run into those too. You know what I mean? But I mean, we're just a small company that's growing, and I love doing what I do. I have a passion for it. I am genuinely here to do what I can do to make your hunting a success, basically.
Awesome.
So when you call Horny Bucks, there ain't push 1 for English, 2 for a foreign language?
You're not going to get that, brother. Rule of thumb, the number that's on there is my telephone number.
All right.
For right now, anyways. But I'm taking about 50 to 60 calls a day, and I get a lot of people leaving me messages, and I do call them back. And I get people calling me, and they're like, "Is this Horny Buck Seed?" I'm like, "Yes." And it says, "Can I speak to it so they can help me?" I said, "You're talking to him." And I'm like, "Who are you talking to?" I said, "Well, you're talking to Doug." And he goes, "Well, who are you?" "I own it." "No, I ain't talking to the owner." I'm like, "You're talking to the owner, brother. What do you need? I can help you. What do you got?" And he'd be like, "Are you serious? I'm really talking to the owner." I said, "Yes, you are, buddy. What do you need?"
Yeah, you don't find that these days. That's a whole, it's very unusual. Yep.
Just going the way of the dodo. I mean, I ain't gonna lie to you. Someday, the amount of calls I'm taking right now, it might get to where it's gonna go to somebody else that can help them, because,
Sure.
like I said, I'm getting about 60 phone calls a day right now, and that's okay. I'm not complaining. But I genuinely have people that call me because they genuinely need help.
Right.
And I'll help them, if I can.
Can I give out the phone number that's on the website?
Sure.
Okay, it's 920-539-1259. There you go.
Yep.
The Horny Buck Seed Company. Doug, it's been a pleasure.
Hey, mine also. I hope I didn't bore you to death, guys.
I learned a ton. I learned more about food plots tonight than I've ever known my whole life, and that's great.
Oh, you know what, you guys, you made my night. I love it. I just did a seminar for Whitetails of Wisconsin, and the people, and they're deer farmers, and this is what they do for a living, and they came up to me and they're like, I've learned so much in this hour you talk. I thank you so much. And I'm like, man, I'm so humbled, because I said, I'm just relaying my everyday life thing that I've learned. I'm not, it's not like I know that much, but I love helping people. I genuinely do.
Fantastic. Well, thanks for joining us on the Big Buck Registry's Big Buck Podcast.
Thank you very much for having me, guys.
Well, Dusty, thanks to Doug for sharing all his knowledge about food plots, and I feel like we just scratched the surface on this subject matter. And I know you are into this, and you hammered Doug pretty good with a lot of hard questions that, quite frankly, went right over my head. I don't know what the heck you guys were really talking about.
There's more, there's more to a food plot than just putting seed out. And I wanted to break that down a little farther than just the seed. There, a pH level, do a soil test. That's your key starting factors. You get into fertilization, what kind of fertilizer it takes to grow the seeds.
Right.
And then it comes down to putting the seed in the ground, and, herbicides, broadleaf, just trying to cover the spectra on what you need to do to put a nice, mature food plot in that's going to give you the poundage that you need to feed your herd.
That's cool. And we got Doug to agree to give me a sample pack, and I'm going to plant it out in the backyard, and I'm going to do a step-by-step time-lapse photography, video periodically type thing to show what a novice can do. Because, I know how to grow a garden, but not like you guys, not like you do in Ohio. That's way beyond my skill set.
Yeah, it just boils down to being around it. Obviously, you can take classes for it. You could go to class for strawberries if you that's what you want to do.
Oh, heck yeah. Yep.
But, food plots are the same way. There is classes at most outdoor shows that you can go and sit down and listen to Doug from Horny Buck Seed Company, and he'll kind of help you with answering questions. And I like Doug because he relates to the person. You call Doug, he's going to give you an answer to your question.
That's yes.
Customer service nowadays is going down, and I like Doug that he's keeping it strong with his business.
I think he's got a good product, and I think that he's very energetic, and he believes in his product, and he wants to help people. And he wasn't BSing. You could tell that was resonating through his very soul, that he's out there to help everybody have a better time in the woods and make that herd stronger. There's no question.
Absolutely. It's not always about growing mega racks. It's about keeping your your herd healthy through the winter and give them the extra poundage that it takes to get through the cold months.
Yep. So we're going to do a little class with me as the student, and we're going to do a little step-by-step process with Doug as the expert and see how things come out and see, if a novice can do it, so can anybody who's listening, really.
Absolutely. And that's going to be a awesome step-by-step procedure to watch, and maybe somebody can check it out and learn something from what you're going to do.
Yeah, I think it's going to be fun, and probably by the end I'll have more deer running around my backyard than before.
Right on.
That'd be cool. All right, man. How can we get a hold of you at Chubby Tines?
Facebook.com/Chubby Tines Outdoors. Send in a picture, shoot a message in with a question. We'll post it up and get an answer for you. We try to help out, no different than the Big Buck Registry. Jay, how can I get with you at the Big Buck Registry?
Yeah, very simply. It's bigbuckregistry.com. And if you want to go to Facebook, it's bigbuckregistry.com/Facebook, or Twitter is /Twitter. You can give us a call at 724-613-2825. You can even text a photo to that phone number or call us and leave us a message. Give us some feedback. Please go to iTunes and give us a review about this show and let us know what you think. Go to iTunes. Go to our website and you'll see a link for iTunes at the very top. Go to bigbuckregistry.com. At the top left, you'll see a link for iTunes. Click on that. That'll bring you to the iTunes directory for this show, and you'll see a link for write a review right there. Email jay@bigbuckregistry.com. And I think that's a wrap, Dusty.
Awesome. Make sure you check us out every Saturday at 5 a.m. You just never know what the next podcast will be, and it's getting awesomer and awesomer by the week.
Yeah, the guest list is quite extensive and quite impressive. So,
and for sure, if you got something that you think that our listeners would be really interested in, shoot it in. Let us talk with you about it and see what you got going on. You got a product or an up and comer? Get with us. We're interested.
Definitely, we want some feedback from you. Let us know who you want us to talk to, and we'll get them on the show. This is Jay Scott.
I'm Dusty Phillips.
And this is the Big Buck Registry's Big Buck Podcast. See you next week.
Can't wait.